can you see this person's perspective, but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
Hello there.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I've been limping along last few weeks. You're back from your venture.
I am. I'm back from the adventure.
And a lot of you follow Teri, and she shared some amazing pictures. And I tell you, you just reinforced the fact that there are so many things to do right here close to home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm telling you that the Monument Valley and Moab and all of it was lovely.
Just beautiful, beautiful things. Well, we're going to talk about, I wanted to ask you about something because I've been getting some, I guess because of my age. I mean, I'm 62, so I'm a lot of the people that are around this in the 60s, we start having to rebrand our identity. Sometimes not that we choose to, but like, for instance, we get aged out, or we lose a job that has been our identity for 30, 40 years. We have a divorce. So that rebrands our identity and not something that we necessarily wanted to do. Or maybe we lose a child. And I know that's really your bailiwick. You really work with so many people with tremendous loss, and tremendous loss makes you have to rebrand. And I always thought, how do you get the identity that you have been for decades, maybe your whole life? This is what I identify as. And I'm not making this is not anything about gender or anything. I have identified as this for my whole life. Suddenly, I'm not that anymore. I know it really affects men too. So can we open that can of worms a little bit because is there grief?
There can be grief, but a lot of, I call it the evolution of our life. We're supposed to continue to evolve. Sometimes we evolve with life changes or, life stage changes where we're not expecting them, a divorce, the death of a loved one, loss of a child, which of course is the death of a loved one. There are things that happen, like you said, people can identify with their job for years and years and years, and then they lose that job. They're gaining something else in that. We're always gaining something else, but it doesn't mean that we're gaining something that is equal to. It just means that we're maybe gaining insight or knowledge about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So the rebranding comes in where, we have a new opportunity to start doing things differently, to do things a new way. I've got a client of mine gave me a mug a few years ago because one of the things that I say to people all the time is, if not now, when? If not, who? And so that's when we have these life changes that happen, yes, there's a period of grief to sit in that. And then we do have to challenge ourselves to start moving through it. Now, I never say moving on, because that can feel very insular when we're talking about a loved one that's passed away and you just move on from that. It's not about moving on. It's about navigating life. It's about creating more life and getting used to a new identity. Parents go through it when their kids go off to college. They've had 12 years or 15, 16 years to have their children at home, be mom, be dad, be grandmother or grandfather if they're being raised by grandparents. And then when the child goes away to college or moves out of the house, suddenly it's an empty nest. Suddenly they don't know what to do with their self. They've always been called so-and-so's mom, and there's a new identity. But that also sparks a lot of opportunity to step into things that maybe we've shelved in the past. Or maybe it's, I've got clients right now that work in one particular industry, and while they like it, they don't love it anymore. And just conversation with a client who's found out that they're a great artist, like painting, and a dream of theirs is to go to Ireland and move there and make goat's milk soap and live that life and paint and go to the market. So are we doing it? Are we doing it? And they do believe that they are going to be doing that. And so, and I don't mean they just are fairy farting it. They're putting things in motion to do that. So there's always opportunity out there for us to lean into, even when an obstacle comes around.
Elizabeth says, Lordy, the thought of losing my job literally terrifies me. I don't know what I'd do or who I'd be without it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a thing. And when it's not your choice and all of a sudden you're not expecting it, sometimes you have a current, you go, okay, we're in financial difficulty with the company. We're going to have to be some job cuts. And you think, gosh, last one in, first one out. There's that. And then there's the oldest one in, first one out. There's all those things that you cannot wrap around. And there is a certain amount of fear. And I think that you have to kind of acknowledge that that's scary. But I think for me, I was talking to someone and I asked him, he says, I'm going to quit my job. And I said, well, what are you going to do? He says, well, I don't know. I said, well, what do you have a passion for? Is there it? Because, I immediately go into motivational, okay, what you going to do? I said, what do you have a passion for? And he says, I don't have a passion for anything. And I think that's where it starts. It's like rediscovering something that you have said, okay, one day I will. One day I will. And sometimes you one day I will it long enough, you can't even remember what it was you were going after.
Well, the truth of it is, and not to dive off into this foxhole, but the truth of it is a lot of people are in careers right now because they were guided and ushered into those by family or friends, not by choice. It was a great thing to do. They were young. They didn't know really what to do. Like, am I going to be a cashier at Kroger the rest of my life, or do I want to get in the music business? And people, they push them and sort of herd them in that direction. And then you end up in a career 5, 10, 15 years vested, and it's okay, but it's not feeding your soul. But you don't really know what would feed your soul because you were so young. It's one of the reasons why, and if we have any educators out there, they fall on both sides of the fence with this, but I'd love to hear their input. It's one of the reasons why I am not a fan of the school track system that they do in high school these days, and even in some middle schools. They start kids in high school picking a career field that they want to be in the rest of their life, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that is great for some people, analytical thinking people. They love it, but that's not great for everybody. It puts a lot of stress on people. And I think that's also why I have a lot of high schoolers and college clients that are like, I just feel like I'm letting everybody down because I've identified as this person that's going into pre-med, but I don't even like medical stuff, or I've identified as someone who's going into business management. I don't want a business. I don't want to manage one, and so when I work with people and I talk about the littles, that's like a real-time little that's going to have 30 years from now some major issues, doing something that they feel like they've just bartered their life away.
Yeah. Well, Perry just joined us. Hi, Perry. How are you? I'm good, Perry, and we both are good, and we're both glad that you are here. EB says, what I do is literally 180 degrees from what I thought in high school or college. So glad I kept an open mind to my opportunities. So I just, it's like, wow. I think about the things. It's so funny that you brought up cashier at Kroger, because I had someone and I was going through line at Publix and I recognized someone But you know how you see them out of context. And she says, I used to work in an advertising agency. I was a media buyer with you at WSIX. And I said, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And she was a cashier at Publix. She was smiling. She was so happy. I said, wow. I said, this is a career change for you. And she says, Devon, it's the best thing I ever did. She says, one day I woke up and I was stressed. She said, my doctor said, you're going to have a heart attack. You're just stressed. You're just this. She goes, you're not happy. You need to find something that makes you happy. And she says, you know something? She says, everybody that comes through my line is taking home something to feed their family. She says, it's the most amazing thing. I check out their green beans. I talk to them a little bit and they're all so happy. And I'm happy. And she says, and when I leave, I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I just show up and smile at more people. And I just love this job. And she says, I've got some benefits. I've got this. I've got that. I love who I work with. She says, I'm happier than I've ever been in my whole life. So sometimes I think it's take the brackets off what we say. We have to make this amount of money. We have to do this. We have to do that, and go, what would give me joy? And I think it's hard to find our joy. I think, especially as Americans, we're told, well, you can have joy when you retire.
Mm-hmm.
Wait till you're 65 and then you can be happy. This is a job. This is a paycheck. You can do anything for a while. That's a horrible way to think.
Yeah. Well, right. And I think we do have that. We have some backwards thinking in that, you know.
Yeah.
But also, you know, not everybody. I mean, like I've shared this before with people. I have a former client that was a cardiologist, and he loved to pitch clay, but he was a cardiologist. And so, you know, he's doing work now with his hands, pitching clay and selling it, and wearing his Aloha shirts and his khaki shorts and flip-flops. And he's living his best life ever. Now, there are some people that would cringe at the thought of living that kind of life, but that's because there's different strokes for different folks, right? Mm-hmm. We've got to have some people that do things that we would never want to do, but they like doing them, or they're stuck in it and they're doing it, you know, until they retire. I think it is, even though you might have a job that you're not crazy about, you can still have a life that you love. Mm-hmm. You know, you can have a job that you're not crazy about if you've got a lot of time and energy vested in a job, but you can still create pockets of peace, pockets of growth, and joy outside of work.
Right.
You know,
it's really amazing when you start opening up. And I said, I'm a list maker, and I think first start out with a list, or in Teri has the most amazing journal. She finds notebooks, journals. They're beautiful, and you find them places. And I find yourself a notebook that you like to write in. I don't mean it's some people, you know, your phone is fine. Your phone is fine if you want to take your notes there. But there's something tangible about writing in your handwriting dreams. I mean, even if it's to be a ballet dancer, maybe think back to your child and what did you want to be when you grew up? When you wanted to be a cowboy, when you wanted to be a this, when you wanted to be a that. Put some of those things on your list and revisit the ways that you could have some of those things in your rebranding. I don't mean as a career, but as a rebranding. It's like, what can I spend my days doing?
And some people won't know I don't remember what I wanted to be when I was little. I don't have any idea what I wanted to be at all. So that's a whole clean palette of doing things that you enjoy. You know, people will say all the time, well, I didn't never think I was going to like that, but I did it and I love it. And it's like, and it doesn't mean you have to do that full time for a job, but incorporate those little happy pockets in your day or in your week or in your month.
Mm-hmm. Find things that are outside. Elizabeth says, I am blessed to love my job. I also treasure all my outside work activities.
Right. Right.
So those are amazing things. And a lot of times we forget that we can do things just for the joy of them. I don't know where we got. I know that mine is my upbringing. Well, if you get all your chores done, we'll talk about doing something fun maybe this weekend.
Well, a lot of that though too, Devon, comes into people who are seeking that approval from parents or guardians or friends or whatever, and they get in that pattern of seeking that approval, and then they get some approval but they don't get enough of it, so then they work harder. If I just work a little harder, they'll see my value. And then what happens is we end up working ourselves literally to death, because if they don't see your value and you don't have the bandwidth to address that with them, then they're not gonna see it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how people's identities get to. There's a great book out there, and the name slips me right now, but it's about perfectionism, and it talks about the healthy part of that and the not so healthy part of it. But a lot of times people get so caught up in what they do as a job that they self-identify that is the, they'll rank family in there too, but their job is where they get their identity. I am smart. I am patient. I am kind. I am intelligent. I am good at this. I am good at that. It's because it comes from the accolades that people get at work or from work.
It's so funny because you bring that up, and I was thinking about, let's take, for instance, this show. I started out, I will tell you, full disclosure, I needed some help in a time in my life. And Teri had reached out to me, and it took me a year before I said, okay, I'm going to do this. A year. And she never bothered me, but she just reached out because she knew I was going through loss and some stuff. And she just said, something told me, because Teri's very intuitive. And so she just reached out. We were not friends prior. We didn't know each other from Adam. It helped me so much. Then I started having her on my radio show, and then people were going, who is this person? I really love what she says. And then it just occurred to me that we have 30 minutes a week that we could introduce people to what Teri does. And people, this show is one of the joy islands in my life. And I have so many people that I run into, and that show that you do with that girl, is that your sister? And it's so funny because I laugh because we have so many similarities. And I said, no, she's not my sister, but my sister watches the show and she really loves it too. This show, we don't make a penny off of it. We're not here for making profit. This is not what we do. This is our joy island, and we just impart to you, and we discuss things, and you guys leave comments, and you're part of our show. And we've got a little family kind of going that is just wonderful. Johnny Finoker just joined in, and Elizabeth says it's those unexpected sprinkles that can make life so delicious. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, back to that the part about like the identifying thing, I challenge people to get clear with what it is that they like. Some people will say, well, I know I don't want to do this, and I don't ever want to do that, and I don't ever want to do that. And I'm like, well, you sure do spend a lot of money and a lot of time on things you don't want to do. What do you want to do? Mm-hmm. And most of the time people will say, well, I don't know. It goes back to what we've talked about several shows ago. Like when people say, well, I just want to be happy, like people are happy. And I'm like, well, define your happy. Mm-hmm. Define your happy. Doing things that you love to do. I have a really good friend. Her name is Angela, and she was in another life. She was a meditation teacher. She was a yoga instructor. She still does that stuff now, but she's also she's a voiceover. She loved to do voiceover. Mm-hmm. She wanted to do singing in Nashville. And it did not pan out for her the way that she wanted it to be, but she's got an amazing voice. So she does voiceovers. Well, I got in touch with her. It was at, we all know Delaney because Delaney's been on our show. Angela and I were both at Delaney's wedding, and we ran into each other, and she's from California, or she's in California now. And so we started talking, and I asked her what she was doing. And she said, Well, I just get so much joy making jewelry and making necklaces. And it's funny because I actually have one on right now. I'll take it off and I'll hold it up to the thingy so people can see it. But she has her own little line of she makes jewelry. And this is she made this for me. It is the most beautiful
Ooh, pretty. Yes.
necklace. And it's got the Om in there because I'm all about the divine in all of us. And so, yeah, she was telling me, she was like, I'm making these necklaces now and I love them. And she just started sharing it with me, and she was sharing about how much she loved doing it. And she was like, I want to make one for you. And I tell you what, she loves making this jewelry. And when she makes it, she told me, she said, I just put time and energy and love into it, and I infuse it, and then I send it on. And that might sound like fairy farts to a lot of people, but I'm here to tell you, it's, when you find something that you love to do, whether you do it full time or whether you do it part time, allow yourself to love.
Oh, I love that. That's really great. Well, Johnny Vinokur joins us and says, I always love the sprinkles. Johnny does always love the sprinkles, like Elizabeth was talking about, the unexpected sprinkles that make life so delicious. Johnny has been an actor for his whole life, from child actor on, still doing acting, but he's worked into stand-up, he's worked into hosting, he's worked into actor coaching, and he's always moving because his true joy really is interacting with people. That's such a joy. And he's one of those kind of people. He's just a spark plug of a personality that just plugs into a room and it lights up because he walked into it. And he's got a new book he just wrote about his life. And it's just, so finding ways to reinvent, rebrand, and whatever. I mean, I've had so many times during my life that I've had people go, well, oh my God, what are you going to do? Your life is over. If I had a nickel for every time someone has told me my life was over, what am I going to do now? I mean, what? Just do something else. And one of the happiest days of my life was when I ran a little ad in the South Cheatham Advocate. And I said, I think I want to take care of people's pets. And I started a little pet sitting business. Not only did I fall in love with the pets, but I really fell in love with the people.
Absolutely.
I fell in love with them. I took care of their houses, and it was just this sweet moment of, can you imagine every door you walk into for your job, someone was happy to see you?
Right.
These pets were so happy. And, I was walking dogs and everything. And it was such a joy. And I had someone ask me, they said, well, you're nothing more than a pet maid. And I go, well, you can call it whatever you want to. But to that dog, to that cat, to that fish, to that whatever it is I'm taking care of, I'm their lifeline. I'm the person that comes in and says, I'm going to keep you company till mama gets home. And I sent pictures to their moms and dads on vacation and stuff. I absolutely loved it. And you could have knocked me over with a feather to know that I would love it that much.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, there's dog sitting sites out there all over the place, right? People do it full time for a living. I mean, there's something that everyone can do. I think for most people, it's getting out of a negative mindset that we have to do XYZ in order to make a good living or be happy. Because that, when we, most people, you to your point earlier, when you reach your 50s ish, definitely 60s, you get into a place where you just want to start living, and if we're fortunate enough to live to our 60s, then it's time. It's time to do those things. Hey, whatever's your jam. I mean, some people love skydiving. Other people want to just write a book. Other people want to, do dog sitting. Other people, life is really, being an end of life doula, I can say life is really short. And I've got one client that said one day, I've just hit 57 years old and I feel like my life is well over halfway done now. And I feel like I'm just getting started. And I'm like, well, here's the beauty in that sentence. If you feel like you're just getting started, then you have the bandwidth to understand all of the yumminess that's ahead of you. So you don't have to put up with all the BS that you did in the past, right? You don't have to waste time, energy, money, any of that stuff on people who don't feed your soul. And if you do have people in your life that are taxing on your nerves, distance yourself a little bit from them. It's okay to do that.
Absolutely. And that's been a true gift. And I learned that from you, is that just because someone's in your life once doesn't mean they have to be there forever. I said there are people who are pages, there are people who are chapters, there are people who are novels in your life.
Right.
And there are people who are whole sets of encyclopedias. You got to know what they are in your life. And it's not, I always said, hold everybody with an open hand. And sometimes you got to go blow that dandelion away. Elizabeth says, I fell in love with the friends that my outside work activities have brought to my life. It's like I have a whole second family in later life. I love it.
Right.
Says, a good frozen yogurt works for me.
There you go.
Yes. Well, and everybody's got their things that can bring them joy. We really haven't gotten to open up rebranding. Maybe we can carry this on to next week too. When you lose the mother label, or when that mother role really changes, when you're left, and because I'm not a mom, I'm a pet mom, I don't have the bandwidth to really discuss it fully. I can talk to my friends about it, but it really is a grieving process. When your child takes their wings, it's a celebration. You're happy and you're glad, but then there's that's a big chapter.
It's a lot to digest. It's also for individuals. Some people get really stuck because it's a day in, day out. You wake up every day, you're taking care of someone. Really no different than a caretaker. If you have a partner or a parent that you've taken care of for a long time, and then they transition and you're left with, after everything is done, you're left going, well, I don't know what to do with myself. There's a grieving process in that, but then there's also an unlimited amount of opportunity and possibility. And it doesn't have to be, anything big. It just has to be something that feels good to you,
Maybe changing your label, maybe another page other than the things that bring you joy. Maybe there should be a page of labels. You have your name, and then what do you put underneath that?
Right.
When hello, my name is blah, 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 and then you put your company name, or then you put your place at home, or you put your family, whatever it is. What other names could you put under your name? And
a great exercise going into from now till next week is when you meet someone, or someone says, who are you? Most people will say they identify by their job, or they identify by what they do, like, oh, well, I'm a XYX. I'm so-and-so's mom. I am da 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 da. I volunteer at yada yada yada. I'm the executive director of blah blah blah. They volunteer, or they that's how they identify.
We stick that sticker on whether we have it figuratively or not.
Absolutely. And they don't identify as who they are at their core, meaning, well, I am a very patient and kind and loving human being. I can be a little spicy sometimes,
Yeah. I love Johnny. He says, life is not short. It's magnificent. That's very much him. And he also says, find the journey, find the funny, create your amazing, wonderful journey. Creative people So, I know you've heard it too. I'm not creative. I'm just not creative.
Oh, I hear people say that all the time. I can't sing. And I'm like, sure you can. Open up and sing. You might not be CMA ready, but you can sing. I mean, hey, who cares? Have a good time. I mean, I've had friends that have done karaoke, and I'm not kidding. I mean, some of them have sounded like, cats in a long-tailed cats in a chair or a room full of rocking chairs kind of singing, but it's fun. They have fun. I don't sing well. I crack notes and everything, but I don't care. I don't care.
Just find your joys, find your places, find your relabels. Start with that notebook that makes you want to write in it. And if you don't know what to put on a blank page, start with things that find your joy. Find other labels that you can put on yourself. Things maybe that you haven't discovered yet.
Well, yeah, create an opportunity to allow possibilities to find you. And that comes with a mindset and a changing of how we attach to, this is just who I am. This is too hard. I can't do this. It's like, you can do it. It may be challenging, but you can do it, because sometimes life is gonna unleash some curveballs that are gonna take you out from where you are comfortable, and it's gonna feel overwhelming. But I can guarantee you that if you were knocked into that uncomfortable place, there's a comfortable place for you to find. It's just allowing yourself to land there.
Amen. Well, we've come to the end of a broadcast day. Teri's got a full slate on her plate today. So if you need to get in touch with her, that number is below, teripugh.com. You can set up virtual meetings with her. She's an amazing coach, walk you through some of life's transcending turbulence. That's you walk you through some of the hardest things that you will go through. And sometimes, like me, you end up with your bestie.
You end up with just new life, right?
That's right. New life. And I just want to encourage you. We're here each Wednesday. Johnny says, energize the person next to you. And I think that's great. And I said, because energy that we have within ourselves is contagious, just by us being who we are. And we're here every week around noonish on Wednesdays, midweek, to get us through.
We're either going to be live, or we're going to be live vaulted. But one way or the other, we're there.
That's right.
And I will say before we close today, I just want to, I don't want our show to go and not notice and not to get off on another, rabbit hole. But if you guys have time or energy to have prayer, have positive thought, or send donations out to our neighbors to our east, because, North Carolina, East Tennessee, and also neighbors to the south, Florida and Georgia. They have taken a hit, and I believe tonight we have Milton, another hurricane that's coming through that is so far. I haven't watched the news today, but the last I heard, it was the largest that will hit Florida in since the 30s, maybe, or something like that. So it's a big one. And these folks down there have already been just pummeled from 2 weeks ago when Helene went through. So you might not be able to do anything physically, but prayers and positive thoughts and, donations, if you can go a long way for folks that have lost everything. So
and there's so many people I love this guy from Kentucky. He said, I have no money, but I have 84 acres.
Absolutely.
And he says, if you want to come pitch a tent, if you want to be here, as long as there's room on this 84 acres, you're welcome to come and stay. And I thought, how beautiful. And Elizabeth says, we've been praying hard for all in the path of these storms. There are little ways that you can be a part of it. And I'll put in a word for my friends at the Cajun Navy. They're from my home state, and they have been front lines on everything. They always are. Mercy Chefs and Samaritan's Purse are also very, very good places to give, because you never know what goes where. But I do know that I can speak firsthand from those people. And I loved seeing those mule teams go up the sides of those mountains and get those things. I said, I saw this woman break down, and she said, yes, it's horrible. But she said, when I saw people come in, all I could see was, here comes love.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought how beautiful that is. And just be part of the love. Be part of the love.
And also understand that, we can be desensitized from it because we see it on the news or because you're not there on the front line of it. But, again, you might have a really nice home in Florida somewhere. I mean, we've got family that live in St. Pete, Florida, and they did not lose their home, but they lost everything in their home because the water got up like 6-7 foot inside and destroyed everything in their home. So they relocated up the coast a little bit in an apartment, temporary, until they can get everything done. But now Milton is headed straight for where they are right now. So it's just, it's a lot. So just, I've seen a lot of things on social media where people are passing judgment about get out of town and all that stuff. But I would just challenge everyone and invite everyone to pause that tongue and just know that people are doing the best they can do. And some people can get out and some people can't. And,
because there's no gas, there's a gas shortage and the traffic to get out. There are my friend Joe Elvis, who's a pilot. He had to go down for training with Allegiant Air. Well, there wasn't something happening when the company said, here's your training time and here's when we're going to teach you. And here's when so he shows up, and then all of a sudden there's a hurricane barreling down. And they said, why don't you leave? And he goes, there's no gas. Everybody's trying to evacuate and everybody's running out of gas, and nobody's bringing gas because there's a hurricane coming.
Right.
So when you think evacuate, what are you going to do? Walk?
Well, and a lot of people have horses. They have farms. I mean, Florida, I believe, is second in the United States to beef and with cattle. So there's a lot, and people don't think that. They think beaches and sunshine, but there's a lot of horses and a lot of cows in Florida. There's a lot of people with their livelihoods. Florida's it's a long state. It's not a wide state, but there's a lot of people there, and
very agricultural. It's a huge,
very, yes.
And so our farmers, and you think about it, you may not feel it today because you're not there,
right?
But you're going to feel it in the grocery store.
Yeah, well, yeah, unfortunately. I mean, so that was just, I mean, I know we always end with telling everybody to increase the peace, but that's a way to increase the peace, is by sending some love, some thoughts, some prayers, some positive energy to people that you don't know, but it can feel helpless in a time like this. I've got a good friend that is a travel nurse, and him and his wife, they're both travel nursing in 2 different places right now, and they live in St. Pete. And so they've called friends over to put their storm shelter stuff up. And I was just talking with them last night, and they said this is the most helpless feeling they've ever had because, just a couple of weeks ago, they lost everything in their house, and now their house is storm sheltered up again for another one. And so just send some good thoughts and good prayers and good whatever, juju, whatever you want to call it, out. Yeah.
And give if you can, give your time if you can. And, it's just, our world's been beat up.
Give the good and keep the cynicism to yourself.
Yes. All right. And like we always say, increase the peace.
That's right. We'll see you
all right,
next week.
Bye, everybody.